Hey guys, this is Gina with College Success Institute, and I'm excited to be here today and to start your journey with you as you and your student go down this exciting road of college admissions. So, before we get started with our very first class, let's do a little house cleaning. Okay, so first, the courses that you will be going through are designed for the student who is applying to college. Therefore, when I'm talking about curriculum or talking through what needs to be done, I will be referring to the student. I realize that as parents, many of you will be going through the classes as well, and that's great. I highly encourage it. This is an amazing time, and being part of this with your student is going to be helpful, and it'll allow you to help your student as they encounter questions or need guidance along the way. Okay? Secondly, I cannot stress this enough, but this is your student's journey. So while as parents, it's important for you to be involved, and there are lots of ways that that will be able to occur, just remember that it is your student that will ultimately be leaving and going to college. So it's important to let them take the reins and guide this process. As a member of College Success Institute, going forward, I think I'm going to refer to this as CSI. So when you hear me say CSI, I'm referring to the College Success Institute. There will be multiple tools and resources for both parents and the students. So I encourage you to get into the course, get into the discussions, get in and look at all the resources that are available, because there will be many things that are specifically for parents, some that are specifically for students, and then others that you guys can use together. So let's get started. First of all, I want you to close your eyes. So I want you to imagine that you're on Christmas break. You're enjoying this time with the family after completing your first semester of college. Woohoo! So you've gone through the admissions process, you got accepted, you're in your dream school, you've just completed your first semester, and you have straight A's, right? So what is different? Now that go back to where we were. So it's Christmas after your first semester. What's different? How do you feel? Are you happy to be home? Are you excited? Are you extremely proud of yourself for completing that first semester of college with all A's? Your parents are beaming because they've missed you so much and are happy you're home, and they're excited that you got straight A's. You're in this program because you have chosen to ensure a successful path to college. And with a lot of hard work and dedication, your vision will be a reality at this time next year. So keep your eye on the prize and know that as you go through this and you get bogged down, and there are times that it does just become daunting or overwhelming or frustrating, that you just keep pushing through, because on the other side is the success that you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to discuss a little bit about the admissions process and why it is so competitive. Okay, there are three main reasons that the process has become so competitive. First of all, more students are going to college than ever before. 10, 15 years ago, maybe only 65% of the students that graduated high school would go to college. Others chose other paths, or they would go straight into the workforce. Now we're seeing about 90 to 95% of the students, probably about 90% of the students that graduate from college are going in, that graduate from high school are going into the into college and getting a degree. So that has made it a lot more competitive. Secondly, students are applying to more colleges due to how competitive the admissions has become. So 10 to 15 years ago, a student would apply to 5 schools, and they would go through the process, get everything done, send 10, and boom, it was done. Now we have students applying to 10, 15, plus schools, depending on majors, depending on how competitive their schools are. So the number of applicants that each school receives has tripled, or even more, in some cases quadrupled, depending on the school. So therefore, their acceptance rates are going down because they have so many applicants to look through. And third, previously, a student might apply to 2 Ivy Leagues or highly competitive school, or what we call the public Ivies, that type of thing. So they might apply to 1 or 2, and then they'd have 2 or 3 fit schools or safe schools that they knew they were going to get into. So now they're applying to maybe 6 or 7 Ivies, 7 or 8 of those middle range, and maybe 3 or 4 of the safe schools. So therefore, the whole process trickles down. So therefore, schools that were not as competitive, a school that a lot of students would think of, oh, this is a safe school, now they're becoming more competitive because they have students that are top tier students applying, because they know that if those students don't get into their first choice, their Ivies, their top ranked schools, that they have something to, or a place to go. They have a backup plan. They have a school that they like. And so therefore, when they're looking at the admission, when the admissions officers are looking at their applicant pool, they have a lot more competitive students to choose from than they might have 5 or 10 years ago. So those are the basic reasons why the application process has become so competitive. So I'm always asked, how do they decide? So we're going to watch a few videos here that will give you an idea of how college admission officers determine who gets accepted, waitlisted, denied.
This is an ad for a project management tool called Monday.com. This is what it looks like, and this is what it feels like.
All right, we're on page 61. She's got 5s in 4 APs.
We divide our applicant pool of circa 8,000 candidates into 30 plus geographic regions, and we pair 2 readers to each region.
With Caitlin on her being an inside the box kind of gal.
Inside the box.
Inside the box. How many would like to admit? Waitlist. Prior to the conversations we have here as a committee, the group has been significantly reduced to a really, really accomplished group.
He's a top tester.
He's got all A's.
4 varsity sports.
The first chair trumpet in the orchestra.
You ready for this? 6.4 GPA on a 4 scale.
Did he get all those 5s without AP courses? Yeah. Oof, but we can't take them all. And so about 1,000 candidates are brought to be heard by the whole committee.
The process of making those decisions is agonizing.
I'm questioning the edge here, however, in all her excellence. How many would like to admit? Okay, she goes to the wait list.
We're fully aware of the fact that the process is, I don't want to say flawed, but is making minute distinctions among extraordinarily talented kids. There are times, honestly, where I'm not sure why I put my hand up or failed to put my hand up. I'm kind of going with my gut here.
The night before her AP chemistry exam, she learned her father had an affair with a 23-year-old prostitute.
How many would like to admit?
One parent is a business exec VP with a master's. Both went to Harvard. He's got 3 SIBs at Harvard in classes 09, 11, and 15.
His family financial situation took a huge hit, and they lost their family store and all other assets.
When a student is particularly poor and are achieving at an exceptionally high level, that will be a plus factor for that student.
Dad's alcoholism consuming the family. This is a quote from one of his essays. The alcohol-consuming poor Muslim family down the street with whom no sane member of society would want to interact.
How many would like to admit?
I am cognizant of some lives being changed, literally. On the other hand, yeah, I do feel badly. The months of February and March are simply no fun.
Okay, so as you can see that in this process, sometimes it is very subjectional. You never know. I think the quote that stood out to me the most was the male admissions counselor who said, sometimes I don't know why I put my hand up or don't put my hand up. So when you're thinking about that going forward, that is why we have to make sure we're standing out, that we're giving them reasons to put their hand up or not to put it up if you're not going to be a fit. But hopefully, as you fulfill your application, you go through all this process, you're going to be the one that pushes it over the edge and they're raising their hand. So here's another one.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day, every day.
All right, we're on page
Sorry about that,
61.
guys.
She's got 5s.
That was the same one.
This morning on Education Nation Today, inside the college admissions process. It is nail-biting time for high school seniors. The applications are in, but the answers still weeks away. So how do schools decide who gets in and who misses the cut? Today got an exclusive peek at what happens behind closed doors.
That's the one thing I fear. If we're going to take a risk on a student, I'd like to know that there's some sort of compelling argument to do so.
It's a give and take. 15 minutes that can decide a student's future.
But I don't think we should deny her.
At Grinnell, a top liberal arts college in Iowa, 2 admissions officers read an application. Their comments are shared.
Wait list in order, but I could even go with a deny.
This is, were you reading this one at 3 a.m.?
Then the application is parsed. Grades and scores are scrutinized.
His SAT 2 in history was a 750, so that doesn't make sense. They're getting C's.
Essays evaluated.
This essay really kind of spoke to his willingness to step out and try new things.
Comparisons made.
She's far and away the lowest in the group, which probably ends it for her.
Extracurriculars weighed.
Why should we treat a musician differently from the way we treat an athlete?
And finally, a vote.
Who would be in favor of a wait list, do you think? Okay, and Quentin, you're still sticking to your deny, huh?
I stick to it.
Well, sorry, you're outvoted.
Seth Allen is Grinnell's Dean of Admission and Financial Aid.
I would love to say that the admission process is a very straightforward process where every student is considered on their own merits. But that simply isn't true. The process is highly subjective.
Which means the pros and cons of a candidate are sometimes debated.
That's a great example of an essay. I mean, it tells us a lot about the student.
Well, but I guess I would take a contrarian perspective. He's talking about how much he's changed, but do we really see that in the evidence of his application?
For me, the issue is more of the transcript coupled with the light extracurricular involvement.
Mm-hmm. He's at a school and in an area where we'd probably like to have some more kids.
People can be very persuasive. If someone provides a rationale that you hadn't thought of, they raise issues that you hadn't really considered, your mind can change.
Who would be in favor of admitting? One, Tina, okay. Wait list? Okay.
It's little things in the process that please us, surprise us, uncover something that we think, wow, this is someone unusual that we'd like to include in the class.
Who would vote to admit? Okay. We'll call her an admit then.
And we want to thank Grinnell College for its cooperation. Jacques Steinberg is the New York Times national education correspondent and moderator of its blog, The Choice. Jacques, good morning to you. Yeah. I got nervous just watching that. It took me back to when I was a senior in high school because you never do get over that feeling. Yeah. And is that the way the application process works pretty much at all schools across the board?
Yeah, Grinnell uses a template that exists at about 50 or so highly selective schools that, deny probably more students than they accept. And it's a very, very involved process where there's scrutiny of every sort of aspect.
But they said something there that might make students feel a little better about the process in the sense that it is subjective. It's really not a referendum so much on the kid as it is maybe what the college needs at that particular moment.
No, I think that kids and parents should never read this process as a referendum on how good a job they did as students or how good a job they did as parents. As you could see from that video, there's so many factors at play at one time. And as an outsider, you can't possibly know what they're looking for at that moment they're around that table.
And yet there are certain guidelines, right, that they follow?
Certainly. And, for example, the rigor of your curriculum, how hard were the courses you took is the very first thing that they look at in most instances. And
did you stretch yourself then?
Yeah, and that's something that sort of is within your control, but don't go overboard and feel that you have to take, 5 advanced placement courses a year.
And what about extracurricular? How much do they weigh that?
That's certainly in the mix as well, but I think kids and parents tend to think that you need a million activities when, commitment to a few activities, something something outside the classroom for a few years often will suffice.
It's just as good. What about age and gender and maybe what part of the country that you live in? Are those things put in?
These are the sorts of things where, it can kind of make you crazy as an outsider. They'd like to admit somebody from every state. So if you're lucky enough to be the kid applying from North Dakota, that might give you an edge. But gender is certainly important. They're very upfront about the fact that racial and socioeconomic diversity is important. How, as an outsider, could you possibly figure out whether you're going to get in or not?
Exactly. But the essay, again, you're listening to those folks in that room, is so important. And for one kid, it worked against the child, actually, the essay, because it didn't match with what they were looking at in the transcript.
But again, you can't know what they're looking for.
Right.
I think the essay is one of those things that's within your control. How can you come alive as a person in a way your test score make happen?
So for a high school junior watching this now, what's the takeaway here?
I mean, it's a crazy thought, but if you can't control this process and you can't out-strategize it, maybe it's counterintuitive, but can't you relax a little bit and sort of be yourself and just put yourself out there and let the chips fall where they may?
Well, easier said than done, but hopefully this will calm some kids down. John, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that hopefully gives you a few ideas of what the process is like, what's going to be happening, and how kind of some of the admissions officers look at that. 2018 brought the most competitive year yet. I hear this every single year. 2016, it was the most competitive. 2017, it was. 2018, it is. And again, this goes back to some of the reasonings that we talked about earlier on. So I'm going to kind of just share a little. I pulled off 3 articles. You can easily go back, copy these, and look at them yourself. But let's just kind of look at Cornell real fast. And I want to just kind of show you their admissions rate. So when they're talking about 2016, this would be the class that graduated college in 2016. Freshmen that are coming in now will graduate in 2022. So you can see that they've gone over from 2016 to 2022, the admissions rates dropped from 16.2 to 10.3. It has the lowest admission rate and the most diverse in school history. So that's like an important thing to keep in mind. They had 51,328 applicants. I mean, just think about that for a minute. 51,000 applicants, breaking their all-time record. So when you're thinking about that, you're applying, you're not just applying to with students from your own particular area, you're applying with students across the whole United States. You're applying and competing against every valedictorian, every school newspaper, every drum major, every sectional leader in choir or band, every theater student. And each school has their own top ranked students in all of those areas. But when you bring all of those students together, then being a top ranked student in your school may or may not propel you to the top. So those are just things to keep in mind. Now, I don't want to say this this isn't to make you scared, make you nervous. It is what it is. And I think just as the man in the video referred to just now, if you can take a deep breath, relax, put out the best application you can. There are things and strategies you can use to make sure that your student or that you as a student are showing the sides of yourself that your application might not just show when you're filling in just the demographics and the data and your test scores. But there are a million reasons why somebody could or could not accept you. So you just have to relax, put out your best effort, and know that you're going to end up in an amazing school, a school that's the right fit for you. And when you look back, you're never going to regret that. It's just typically part of it. So how do you stand out? You start and plan ahead. If you are a student that's a freshman, then I cannot tell you how great that is, because you can begin to put things in place and make decisions and choices that will affect you long term and help you be a strong student and stand out. Now, unfortunately, if you're a junior and you're starting your junior year or ending your junior year, getting ready to go in your senior year, a lot of things are already set in place, so you can't go back and change those. And at this point, dwelling on that, focusing on that, stressing out about that is not going to change it. It's what it is, kind of what I said a minute ago. So just let that part go and start planning ahead now, right where you're at. So wherever you're at in this process, start now, start planning, and start putting things in place instead of waiting. Be prepared. And that goes in a lot of different ways, but you want to be prepared. Make sure that you have all of the pieces. You're preparing for your test score, for your SAT and your ACT and your subject test and all of those type of things. So just plan to be prepared as you move forward instead of just waiting till a deadline and going, oh, my application's due tomorrow, so I'm going to run out and get this done. No, be proactive, be prepared. Meet all deadlines. I cannot stress how important this is. If the school states that the deadline for admissions is December 1st, that means they want you to have in your application, they want you to have in your letters of recommendation, all your essays, your resume, your test scores, everything that needs to be sent needs to be into them by December 1st. If you miss that deadline and you call the school and say, hey, I missed the deadline, I'm so sorry, my computer glitched, or any of those things, because I can guarantee you when you wait till the last minute, something always breaks. It just does. So when you're waiting to that last minute and you're trying to get those deadlines in and you miss it, the school's going to say, I'm sorry, the application process closed at midnight. There's nothing we can do about it. So you don't want to lose out and get pushed off and not even have an opportunity to be considered for that particular school just because you waited and you didn't meet the deadline. So that's crucial. So we're going to talk about a timeline. Now, I'm going to start this timeline as if we're a junior, kind of at the end of your junior year. So if you're a junior and it's the fall or the spring, then you are way ahead and you've got you can push all of this timeline back somewhat, some of this stuff, so that you're being proactive and you're being organized and you're getting things done on time. So typically juniors in the fall are preparing and taking their SATs. I like to see students have their SAT scores, their strong scores, the ones that they're ready to send off by early spring, and that way they have that off their plates and they don't have to think about that. But if you're coming into this and you're a senior and it's August, then you need to go back to May and you need to start just weekly, daily going through getting these classes and courses taken so that you're getting everything you need to get done. And you're definitely able to do it. I've had seniors come in and work starting in August. Is it more difficult? Are you going to be a little more stressed out? Yes, absolutely. But it is not impossible. So regardless of where you're coming in, just know that this timeline could be adjusted somewhat depending on where you're at in that process. Okay? May. So May is not a time that I typically work with students. I try to encourage students and parents not to put a lot of pressure on your student about the college admissions process. Hopefully they've taken their SAT and ACTs in April. If not, then they do need to take them in May. Go ahead and get them in those particular classes. Have them focusing on test prep, AP exams, final exams, ACT, SAT, and then SAT subject test are in May and June. So right now your students their focus should be finishing junior year strong, because those are the final grades that go on their application, on their transcripts that will be sent to the college. So they're not going to see their senior grades until after the process is already pretty much completed. So this junior year, you want the student to have strong grades. So they need to focus on that. If they're in AP classes, they need to work on trying to get those AP scores that are needed to transfer into college to help save you money, save them from having to take those courses. SAT and again, ACT testing is huge. If you haven't done it, this is the time to be doing it. So May is test month, as I call it. It's finish strong, juniors, and work on your test. Starting in early June, you will want to attend the resume workshop and the brag sheet workshop and letters of recommendation. And I call my classes workshops, but basically it's the class that's within the in the coursework. So you'll see it listed as resume workshop, brag sheet workshop, letters of recommendation, those type of things. So you want to begin to put those pieces together in early June. July, you're going to develop and finalize that college list. And you want to have a really good, list that includes reach, safe, and fit. Okay. That needs to be financially, academically, artistically, athletically, socially. All of those things are considered. And again, there is a course in the Institute that will talk you through understanding how to develop a list, what to look for, and how to put that list together. And then for those of you who have joined for the system for the full year, you have access to the Guided Path, which is an amazing tool that allows you to do tons of research and helps you determine the best fit schools. And you'll know if it's a reach and a fit and what your students' chances of getting in are. Okay? Demonstrated interest in online social. So we're going to look at your social media. We'll talk about that in a minute as we go through this class here. But we're going to look at what you can do in the summer to demonstrate interest in areas that you're wanting to major in, whether that's an internship, whether it's a job, whether it's going to a particular camp, taking a course that's outside of your regular school that shows demonstrated interest in your field of study. And again, in addition, you're going to also want to show demonstrated interest in college. So the colleges you're interested in attending. So this is a good time to maybe do a few road trips or plan over the summer to visit a few of those colleges. And then you're going to take your essay courses, June and July. By that point, we have the majority of the essays that are going to be required by all of the various schools. So you're going to want to take essay course 1 and 2. And during that time, we'll discuss all of the prompts that are given for each of those particular schools so that you'll know what those prompts are, know how to choose which prompts are best for you, and begin to write essays that are going to allow you to stand out and make a difference. SAT subject test if needed. And then you want to start your scholarship search. I can't tell you, every year I have students that will come in and they'll think, okay, my parents have said I can go anywhere, and parents will somewhat be on board with that, going forward, yeah, my student can go where they want. And then they get accepted to a state school that's like $25,000 and an out-of-state school that's like or an Ivy school, and it's $60,000, and the student wants to go to the $60,000 school, and it's like they're so excited, that's their dream school, and then the parents are like, oh, that's $40,000 more than the state school that's a really good school, and it becomes a difficult decision as to whether you spend that and how much is it worth to spend the extra money to go to that higher price school. So starting to search for scholarships as soon as you can makes that process a little easier if you've got some money already saved up for those scholarships. So there is a class on scholarships, and you'll be able to get lots of resources on where to apply and how to look for those scholarships. Okay, July and August, you're going to take your application class. There's one for each application that you'll be completing. So if your student or you are applying and using the Common App, then you'll have to go through that application class. If you're doing the Coalition, you'll go through that one, or Universal, or the University of California apps, or the Apply Texas. There's just various ones, and you may have to do multiple classes because some schools are not on every college. So, on every application. So you may be choosing a couple of different applications that you have to complete in order to get all of the schools on your list applied to. and then complete applications and essays by August the 30th. And then you're going to attend the interview workshop where we go through, we talk about interview questions, how that looks, how that all plays out. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. September, if your student is applying early action, early decision, any of those type of things, then you're going to want to make sure you know those deadlines and you get those applications in early. Begin working on supplements. Every application has a supplement. So if you're applying to a university, you'll have the main application, and then there will be a specific part of the application that is school-based, and you will find those. Some of those are included in the overall application, like Common App or Coalition. Sometimes, like at Apply Texas, the university will send you a link once you've applied that says, go into our back office system, and this is your student portal, and there's the rest of the application to finish. One thing I want to say that I didn't kind of say earlier when we're talking about essays, things like that, every now and then you're going to see something that says optional, an optional essay, or send one essay, the others are optional. In my opinion, none of these are optional. When you're looking at trying to get into a competitive program, you need to be going above and beyond and doing everything that the school is asking. So even if it says optional, if you want to stand out, if you want to actually be able to be competitive and considered, then you want to write those optional items or produce those optional items, and just make sure that you've done everything that they see as an admissions counselor, that you've gone above and beyond, you've done everything that they've asked for. September again is request your letters of recommendation. You'll have already got your brag sheet, everything ready, so all you have to do is take those to your teachers and get them to get those in the mail early on. October begins submitting applications for early action, early decision, and you're going to start the UC Cal State apps if you're applying to California schools. Those applications only open in October and they close in November, so you have exactly, and you can only submit from November 1st to November 30th. So you only have 30 days to submit your applications. November brings submitting again the UC Cal State application, early admission scholarships, and early decision scholarships. These are the scholarship applications for a specific university. So when you apply to the university, you submit it, and then there will be a link to apply for their scholarship. Sometimes they use the actual application for both, but many schools have a separate application form that you have to fill out in order to be considered for scholarship, so you don't want to miss that. Finalize your supplemental essays. December, submit all your regular decision applications, all school-specific scholarships and applications again, and your goal is to be done by Christmas break, and you go, oh, I get to breathe. So, unfortunately, if you're applying regular decision, a lot of those schools you won't know unless they have a rolling admissions. You're not going to know until the spring if you're accepted. But your early action, early decisions, those tend to come in November, December. So you might actually know if you've been accepted to those schools that you've applied to early. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, begin using your student portal. That is your guided path. That is one of the biggest tools and one of the most important things that you can use. You need to get used to going into it every day. Make sure you're putting in your deadlines. Put in what colleges, know what the deadlines for each particular school are, so that when you're applying, it shows up on your calendar and you don't miss that. This is huge. Make sure you're putting your test scores in. You'll be able to compare your test scores against the colleges you're looking for to determine if what your acceptance possibilities are. And then you're able to know, okay, that's a reach school, or that's a fit school, or that's a safe school. So you want to make sure that you're going into your portal on a daily basis, a weekly basis, checking that. And it does send emails and keeps parents in the loop as well. So that's an important part as well. Okay. Spend time getting to know your counselors now. If your counselor will also write a letter of recommendation for you. You will take a letter of recommendation, the brag sheet and the resume and the other things we talk about in that class, to your counselor, but you want to make sure you're getting to know them, that they're aware of who you are. Because if I'm a counselor and I have 200 students that I'm responsible for, and that's a low number for some of these huge school districts, okay? So if that's the case, then I'm going in to write your letter, and I don't want to be going, who is Susan or who is Johnny? I want to be able to go, oh, I know who that person is. Look, they've given me this great packet. They've been in my office. They're very excited, and I can write personal things about them. Be proactive, and it's on your end. These are your letters that you're having written, so that's important. If your school uses Naviance, then you will need to know your user and password, and you will need to make sure that you're following your school's guidelines. So I'm not going to say a lot about that. If you're a school, you'll know if your school uses Naviance, because your counselor will be requiring you to do certain things through Naviance. You can still use Guided Path, use them both, but upload your stuff in Naviance because that's what's required by your school, but use Guided Path to help you in getting your applications done, the organization part, all of that, okay? Social media. This has really become huge in the last couple of years. So when the application officers or the admission officers sitting in that group, and they're trying to decide what to do and which students they're going to take before. So as you saw in the videos, almost all of the schools will assign 2 admission officers to a student. So I've been assigned to you as your admission officer. So I'm looking through, and I have, 1,000 applications in front of me, and I can only take 100 to the council to be approved. And I'm trying to determine which 100 I'm going to take. Which ones am I going to take and bring in and fight for? And so when everybody looks the same, as an application manager or an application admissions counselor, I'm beginning to go out and look for other ways to find out information about these students. And so that's where we turn to social media, and we're seeing it a lot. A Kaplan Test Prep survey surveyed more than 350 college admissions officers, and 35% of the officers polled reported having looked at applicants' social media accounts to learn more about them. 47% of officers who check social media profiles say that the practice positively affects how they will view applicants, and 42 said it was negative. So your social media can be a positive or a negative, and there's a whole class in the Institute that will give you more detailed information on what you need to be doing, how you need to be presenting yourself, and what the admissions counselors are looking for. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Your junior year priorities. Finish your junior year strong. Prepare for your AP exams, your final exams, your SAT, ACT. If you need to improve your scores and you're not taking a prep class, you can talk to me in the chat, send some information. There are test prep options that are in the academy, but you need to make sure that you are getting your test scores up. People ask all the time, what is the best way to get money for college? And I can tell you that out of all the scholarships out there, out of all the places that you can apply, that your test scores and GPA translate into the largest amount of dollars in scholarships for you going forward. So if you have a strong test score and a strong GPA, then you're going to be more likely to get scholarships, and bigger scholarships, than you are if you're just going, oh, I made the bare minimum to get in. So that is your focus. Finish the year strong, juniors. The biggest takeaway for the day, admission decisions are very subjective. So keep that in mind. You can do everything perfect and it's still subjective, and I may or may not choose you to be in my school. But I want you to remember that you're not going to choose every school either. So when you're getting out on campuses and you're going in and talking to admissions counselors and you're looking around, there are a lot of schools that you're going to walk into and go, nope, I don't think so. I don't feel like this is the right school for me. And you're going to turn around and walk off. And that is perfectly okay. So just remember, as you're saying no to some schools, there may be some schools that say no to you. Planning ahead will ensure success, but know that you will most likely still get rejected by some of your schools. Every now and then I have a student that'll get into every school they apply to, but that's not the norm. So, just know that rejection is part of life, and sometimes we don't get what we really want, but you're going to have a strong list, a strong application, and you're going to get into a school that you're going to love in the long run, even if you get no's. And if you get rejected, smile anyway. They just don't know what they're missing. That's the thing to keep in mind. So I hope this course has helped you. This is just the beginning of how to get moving forward, to put that timeline in place, and then going from here, depending on what time of the year you come in and where you're at in the process, you'll want to jump right into your next class and begin working toward that amazing application that shows what a tremendous student you are. So I'll see you guys in the forum, and have an awesome end of your junior year.